Okay, so it finally feels like we're getting closer to the ugly truth behind Angie Stone's tragic death. And let me tell you, the deeper we dig, the darker it gets. At first, when we heard the devastating news about Angie, it seemed like a heartbreaking accident. Nothing more, nothing less. But oh boy, it didn't take long for the red flags to start waving. And trust me, those flags were bright red. Everything they told us about how it went down, a straight-up lie. Then came even crazier details, like how the driver who was behind the wheel of the truck that hit Angie just magically disappeared. And that's not even the half of it. Enter Jaguar Wright, who stepped in without hesitation and basically confirmed every shady suspicion we had. According to her, Angie's death wasn't some random tragic accident. It was a full-on setup. And guess what? Al B sure chimed in too, hinting that this whole situation might even be tangled up with that massive Diddy case that's already rocking the industry. Yeah, it's looking way bigger and nastier than we could have ever imagined. Let's rewind a bit. When the drama first exploded, everyone thought it had everything to do with Angie's fight against UMG. Just weeks before her death, Angie had bravely revealed that UMG had been robbing her blind, stealing from her for years. That theft? It was the reason she kept grinding so hard, long after she should have been living comfortably and retired. Angie made it crystal clear she wasn't going to stay silent. She said, "I've just discovered something that's been hidden in the dark for too long. My publishing was stolen, and guess what? I know exactly who did it, but don't get it twisted, I'm coming for you. All the dogs who thought they could take what's mine, trust I'm ready." Chills, right? Angie was gearing up for the fight of her life. She even said, "It's a new chapter, and you can bet the truth is coming to light. Stay tuned." But here's where things get even shadier. Contrary to the first reports, Angie didn't actually die from the van flipping. No. After the van flipped, a good Samaritan pulled Angie out of the wreckage. She was alive, but just as she was being rescued, bam! A semi-truck came barreling down, slamming into her and taking her life on the spot. Now you'd think they'd immediately investigate the driver of that semi, right? You'd think there would be an intense probe into what happened, right? Wrong, because guess what? The truck driver straight up disappeared. Yup, the man who conveniently came flying in at the perfect moment to finish the job has vanished. An anonymous source spilled some major tea. "I used to work at the same trucking company as the guy who hit the Sprinter van Angie Stone was in. After the crash, he turned in his rig and just left. No goodbye, no explanation. He hasn't answered texts or phone calls. My wife even reached out to his wife to offer support. And nothing. He's gone." The source added that the driver claimed he came upon the wreck too fast to avoid hitting Angie, but even they admitted something about the story just doesn't sit right, especially considering the trucking company knew he had a history of drinking. They even said, "I'm surprised he hadn't been drinking because there's an extensive history of that." Y'all, it's just getting messier and messier. Fans are convinced now more than ever that this was a straight-up cover-up, and it might go all the way to Clive Davis. The way everything has been handled, or should I say, not handled, has left everyone suspicious. Weeks have passed since Angie's death, and yet there's been no real investigation, no meaningful updates, nothing that even remotely explains how everything unfolded. It's almost like they want her death to quietly fade away, like she was here one day and erased the next, while the world just moves on. But nah, people aren't moving on, because this situation is not sitting right with anybody, and according to Jaguar Wright, Angie's death was not an accident.
What do they want?
What do you mean? They want their payment. They want their pound of flesh. They want you to keep feeding the system. Doesn't matter how hard she worked for it. That's not her money. That's their money. That's what they do. They've been robbing me for years.
Yep.
They stole more money from me than they stole from Angie. I can't stop thinking about Nick Carter. And Aaron Carter. I can't stop thinking. Brother in the Illuminati, brother not in the Illuminati. Brother in the Illuminati commits all kinds of heinous crimes against women, and he's okay, but his brother's gone. And all he wanted was his money so he could push on. Like, how many of these things have to happen in front of the public? Of course they're going to attack, I'll be sure. Of course they're going to attack me. Of course they're going to attack anybody who's interested in the truth. Of course they're going to come at us really hard for that first 72 hours and make sure we stop posting, or at least get us flagged from being able to go live, so nobody thinks about the details of the fact that we just watch Angie Stone get moved around in real time on her son's birthday.
But wait, there's more. because Al B sure had something real interesting to say too. Just a couple of days after Angie passed, Al B sure went on Instagram to pay his respects. But fans who read between the lines quickly picked up that he was saying a lot more than he was letting on. Now, if you know anything about Al B, Sure, and his ugly history with Diddy, then you already know. Posting that specific text was no accident. Al B, Sure, and Angie must have shared tons of messages between them. But out of everything, he chose to post the one about Diddy? Yeah, that was loud and clear. Interestingly, months ago, Jaguar Wright talked about an encounter she had with Diddy too. She said Diddy once asked her to pray for him because he was deeply disturbed in his spirit.
I just happened to be in the studio this particular day, and because he never ever really bothered with me or spoke to me in that fashion, I wasn't a part of Uptown, I was just at MCA. On this particular day, I was coming off the elevator. I will never forget it as long as I live. And Puffy came to me, first time, speaking to me as a decent human being. And he said, "Hey, Miss Stone." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine. I'm shocked you speaking to me." He said, "Miss Stone, would you please pray with me?" I said, "Well, of course." When he asked me to pray with him, I believe at that moment Puffy was terrified for his life. I think that he was afraid because all of the things that had gone out and about that party, they were singling him out, and I don't think that he thought he was gonna survive.
Fans have been piecing it all together, and the picture they're seeing is scary. It really looks like Angie might have known way more about the Diddy situation than she ever let on. And now, people are wondering if her knowledge and her willingness to speak out put her life in danger. Al B, sure dragging Diddy into this? Trust and believe it was intentional. If there's one person Al B sure absolutely can't stand, it's Diddy. So yeah, pulling Diddy's name into Angie's death was no accident, no slip up. Now I want to know what you think. Do you believe there's a conspiracy behind Angie Stone's death, or do you still think it was just a terrible accident? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and stick around because the next video, it's even wilder. Because seriously, the more you look at the details surrounding Angie Stone's death, the harder it becomes to just brush it off as some tragic accident. It's like, how many coincidences can stack up before it's not a coincidence anymore? First, we've got a driver who speeds up out of nowhere, ignoring Angie's desperate pleas to slow down. Then, the van flips 3 whole times. Angie survives that horror, only to be pulled out and hit by a random semi that shows up at the exact wrong moment. And now that truck driver, nowhere to be found, vanished like he was never there. If that doesn't scream cover up, I don't know what does. People in the music industry who dare to expose the truth? They don't just disappear quietly, they either get silenced or something happens to them. Angie wasn't just a threat because she was suing UMG, she was also connected to people who had deep dirt on Diddy and the shady underbelly of the entertainment world. That last text she sent to Al B sure says it all. She was praying for him, warning him, and acknowledging just how nasty things had gotten behind the scenes. And let's be real, the moment Al B sure posted that text, it was his way of blowing the whistle too. He could have posted a sweet memory, an old photo, a beautiful tribute. Instead, he posted Angie's words about Diddy, loud, clear, intentional. And what about Jaguar Wright's experiences with Diddy? She didn't just hear rumors, she lived it. She saw firsthand the darkness that surrounds certain powerful people in the music industry. Her warning was simple but chilling. Diddy's spirit was disturbed. He wasn't at peace. Something ugly was eating away at him. Now when you connect those dots, it's hard not to wonder, did Angie Stone know something she wasn't supposed to know? Did she see or hear something that made her a liability to people who would do anything to protect themselves? Fans are asking these questions loudly now, and the silence from the authorities, the media brushing it all under the rug, it's just fueling the fire. People aren't stupid, they can feel when something's off, and everything about Angie's passing feels wrong. The truth is, Angie was loved, respected, and admired not just because of her talent, but because of her heart. She was a fighter, she was fearless, she stood up for what was right, even when it put her in danger. And now that she's gone, it's up to us to keep questioning, to keep digging, to refuse to let her memory be erased or twisted into some tragic accident narrative that doesn't add up. Jaguar Wright, Al B, Sure, and so many fans out there aren't letting this go. And honestly, neither should we. Because when someone as powerful and as fearless as Angie Stone dies under these circumstances, it's not just a loss, it's a wake-up call. It's a reminder that behind all the glitter and glam of the entertainment industry, there's a dark side, a dangerous, deadly side. And when brave souls like Angie start speaking out, sometimes the system fights back in the most brutal way possible. And most importantly, remember Angie, not just as a brilliant artist, but as a warrior who was ready to fight for what was right until her very last breath. Rest in power, Angie Stone. We see you, we hear you, and we're not letting this go. And we're not